Perry Marshall, appreciate you showing up and spending some time with me, man.
It's good to be here with the Mohawk man. Didn't we talk when we last saw each other? Like you're gonna maybe turn your whole company into a bunch of Mohawk merchant account guys. I don't know if you ever decided to. You'd have to force all your staff to have Mohawks, wouldn't you?
Well, I've been watching The Handmaid's Tale, and so recently I've gotten into this idea of just forcing people to do things at my own will. Not really. That sounds terrible.
Since the world seems to be veering towards fascism anyway, I guess we ought to just get with the program, right?
Yep. Well, Mohawks or you're not working here.
If the government's going to be fascist, I guess the business owners need to be too.
So yeah, last we saw each other was on a trip with Yannick Silver to Antarctica, and we spent lots of time with penguins who smell very bad.
Yeah, penguins have a special aroma, which doesn't come through in the pictures, which is probably fine. I'm sure television would be a whole different experience if it came with smells.
Oh boy, that's the truth. That's the truth. Well, I had a great time talking to you in Antarctica, and we've crossed paths in the past, but never really gotten a chance to talk or get to know each other. So a little backdrop on you. I think most people know you from 80/20 and marketing in general, but can you give the quick bio on who is Perry Marshall to help those that don't know?
So I'm the guy who was an engineer and got laid off when my wife was pregnant with our first child. And I had to scramble around. I ended up in sales, which was a good 2+ years of bologna sandwiches and ramen soup and spiraling credit card debt and pounding the phone and pounding the pavement and putting miles on my car. And it was kind of miserable. But I then discovered direct marketing. And I discovered that there's not only the backslapping, handshaking sales guys out, beating the bushes out there. There's this another breed of animal called a marketer, and they tend to more sit in their cave and they write stuff and they craft ideas and they come up with concepts. And if you're really good at that, there's a whole lot less bush beating and pavement pounding that's necessary in order to earn a living. And so I started doing about 2/3 marketing, 1/3 sales guy, and that worked a lot better. And in fact, I took a different job and we built and sold that company for $18 million to a public firm, and I got some stock options out of the deal. So I hung out my shingle. And then the next thing that happened that some people would be familiar with was I wrote the book on Google Ads. And that all started in 2002 when Google just barely began to sell advertising. And so I've been through several reinventions. So I got a book on Facebook, got a Google on TikTok book, Google book, 80/20 book, several other things. And we're here to talk about how all the stir fry goes together.
Right, exactly. So it sounds like you have some mild interest in marketing, maybe.
Yeah, I do. And also, people go, wow, okay, electrical engineer, like now you're doing this, like that doesn't make any sense. Actually, it makes perfect sense if you understand that marketing is arithmetic in human psychology, and there's a whole arithmetic part of it. And if you like numbers, and if you like slicing and dicing, there's a whole fascinating side of marketing that a lot of backslapping sales guys wouldn't touch with a barge pole, but it's extremely profitable. In fact, it's what runs the world now, right? The politicians might be backslapping sales guys, but the propeller heads at Google and Facebook and TikTok are all, they're numbers people. And so whether you roll one way or the other, there's a place for you in the world. And I happen to do both. I like the people stuff, but I also like numbers and charts and fractals and like all kinds of crazy stuff like that, which is why 80-20 was so fascinating. Like 80-20, it's the arithmetic of chaos theory is what it really is. It's the math of inequality. And what any good marketer does is more than pushing and manipulating the world. What really good marketers do is they harness natural forces. They don't just go get a road grader and make a highway. They start with a sheep trail and they turn it into a sidewalk, which eventually they turn into a road, which eventually they turn into an expressway, if the market keeps liking to go down that path. And so I think a lot of people think that we have to fight the world at every turn, and that's not true. In fact, the best marketers never do that.
Yeah, somebody told me a long time ago that shitty salespeople fight to sell and good salespeople sort.
Yes.
And
yes,
that sort of plays into this idea of marketing, right? As if you market very well, you don't have to be able to sell as well in person if you did the marketing right.
Yes. In fact, in 80-20 sales and marketing, I say that marketing is not a convincing people process. It is a disqualification process. The first thing you do is you figure out, who should I not sell to? And that's very fundamental. Like, this isn't just a parlor trick, and it's not a little piece of psychology that you put on like a shirt. It's a fundamental truth. And so in the book, I describe the 5 Power Disqualifiers, which my friend John Paul Mendoza came up with. And they are the 5 things that are always true anytime anybody sells anything to anyone. And this is a pretty profound thing if you really think about, okay, so there are 5 things, and if I meet these 5 criteria, I'm probably going to sell something. And if I don't meet all 5, I'm never going to sell any. Yeah, that's right. So number 1 is they have the money. Mm-hmm. Guess what? If they don't have the money, no matter how long you hold hands and sing Kumbaya, they're not going to buy it. In fact, what the hold hands in Kumbaya thing usually ends up being is you buy it for them, which is a really terrible way to make money. Like, it's just, you never make money when you buy the stuff with your own money and give it to the customer because you wanted them to have it so bad. The second power disqualifier is they have a bleeding neck. People do not buy things when they're comfortable and happy and satisfied. They buy things when blood is squirting out of their aorta and splattering on the ceiling. Like you go to the emergency room with a broken arm, you will find out that your definition of emergency and their definition of emergency is not the same thing, right? But you're sitting there with a Good Housekeeping magazine in the waiting room, holding your broken arm and filling out a clipboard. And then some guy with a gunshot wound gets drug in there. Like, all of a sudden, all these people appear out of nowhere and they start helping the gunshot wound guy, right? Well, this is what I mean by bleeding neck. The third thing is they buy into your unique selling proposition. Well, if you don't have a unique selling proposition, they're not going to buy into it. And if you have one, but they don't solve the problem that way, they want to solve it some other way, then you're not going to sell something. The fourth one is they have the ability to say yes. I do not know how many sales calls I went on where I was talking to somebody who could say no, and they could kick me out the door, but they could not say yes. I'm talking to an engineer and he thinks I got a cool idea, but as soon as I convince him, then I got to go get the engineering manager, and then I got to get the purchasing manager, and then I got to get the vice president, and I would just climb slowly up this ladder. Or like, if you're selling kitchen remodeling, if the husband's there and the wife is not, you're not selling a kitchen remodel. And the fourth thing is it fits their overall plans. So all 5 of those things have to be true. Well, if you take that list of 5 things and you ask yourself, well, how am I going to sell this thermos? Well, it actually narrows down. 90% of the people in the world are not going to buy your thermos. So don't even try.
Yeah.
Just stop.
Yeah. So I love those, and we will certainly be highlighting those steps, because I think that those are great things to think about, both from a marketing perspective and from a sales perspective. One of the things that really good outbound sales teams do, that I personally hate to be on the other end of, because I find it just to be pedantic and irritating when I know that I want to buy, but they force you into a bucket. And so you look at like the enterprise level software companies, you know, they've got a screener, a business development rep that calls you. They have no authority to sell you anything. They can't even give you pricing most of the time. All they're doing is seeing if you fit the box, seeing if you are a qualified lead for them to then hand off to somebody that can potentially sell you. But it's effective for them.
That's exactly right. And so this was a very interesting thing that you just said, because there are not only buyers who can't buy, but there's salespeople who can't sell. Evidently. Right. and so like you could, if this person calls you up on the phone, you could short circuit the process and just say, hey, listen, I'm ready to buy right now. But if I understand this phone call correctly, you have to check up a bunch of boxes before I get to the guy that can actually take the purchase order. Am I understanding this correctly? And well, most people aren't asking them that question. It'd probably be very disarming or something. But when you sell through disqualification, there's something else that you can do that's extremely persuasive when you're talking to the right person. So when we wrote our Ultimate Guide to Facebook Advertising book about 10 years ago, at the time, Facebook was only appropriate for maybe 15% of the businesses out there. If you were a coffee shop or a church or a political organization, Facebook was great. If you sold automotive brake pads, Facebook was terrible. And we would say that Google is the yellow pages, Facebook is the coffee shop. And so when we wrote the book, right on page 2 of the book, it said, go to isfbforme.com, which stands for Is Facebook For Me, and take this little quiz and see what score you get. And if you get less than a 6, just see if you can get your money back for this book. And do not do Facebook. If you get a 9, then absolutely like dog ear, underline, circle, post-it note this book and make it your Bible, because that's going to be really important for you. And we made this quiz, and it really did. Lots of people would have got a 4, 5, or a 6, which at best meant, well, Facebook is probably number 6 or 7 on your list of things to do. It is certainly not number 1. And when your customers can see that you are sending away a steady flow of people who do not fit, and then they show up and you say, dude, you got a 9.2, you should absolutely